Voss, is that how we say it here?
Voss.
John? Voss. The Voss Law Firm was selected, and Mr. Coffey and I did meet with John Carey, who will be our contract attorney with Voss, and we did negotiate a contract agreement. That contract agreement is included in your agenda packet. It is a very simple contract. We had a couple word changes which were put in. And so with that, staff recommends the VOT approve the contract for general counsel services with Voss Law Firm at an annual cost of $90,000. Is there a motion to accept that recommendation? Mr. Amos made a motion. Is there a second? Mr. Bruno seconds. Any other comments, questions with the agreement? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Carey, thank you and welcome as our new attorney. The agreement is effective as of the 17th of December 2021. With that, the only other thing we have on our agenda is the attorney's report. Mr. Reppinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I wanted to send out a spreadsheet in advance of this meeting, which I did not have a chance to complete. It's about 90% complete as far as like all of the matters. I think this discussion will be a little bit easier after transition because there's certain cases that I will be holding on to. There's about 5 DOR cases that I'll hold on to, and I will note that on the report that are on various stages of completion. I did want to, though, verbally advise you of certain matters. And what you'll see, hopefully, I will be emailing that out as soon as possible, hopefully within the next week. I want to do it before Christmas because I'm leaving. And I will be available to come back also at the first meeting in January after transition to kind of talk about the transition as well. I won't be billing you for that. I'll just come back and we'll make sure that we've transitioned everything. I'll work with John's office to make sure that we've transferred all the files that are going to transfer. But I did want to hit on some of the outstanding issues that I think you may be concerned about just generally and under the DOR, just so we can touch on a few of those issues. Obviously, one of the big issues is there's several general matter issues that are kind of still outstanding. One is the Steward medical lease contract. I was talking to John Coffey about that yesterday. Obviously, the board had approved that. They signed the LOI. John, you don't know anything about this yet, but there's a ground lease agreement with Steward Medical. They had signed it's a long-term ground lease proposal that they had signed a letter of intent on earlier. I believe it was this year was the letter of intent, or in December. The board actually approved the agreement for the ground lease. And since that time, I've reached out to Deputy General Counsel for Steward several times. They have not indicated that they have a problem with the agreement, but we haven't seen the signed agreement back yet. So I'm not 100% sure why that is. I will, after this meeting, be again following up with Deputy General Counsel to tell them of Steward, to tell them that the legal services are being transitioned to Mr. Carey. And we will see what happens with that. And that there's a certain amount of...
So you haven't heard any negative things of that?
I have not. Sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Chairman.
No, that's right.
No, there's not any indication, as far as I can tell, that there's anything negative. It's just that we haven't seen the signed contract back yet. And so it's been a while. We had asked them for any additional comments that they had after, because we approved it and we had sent it to them numerous times asking for revisions, and there were some minor suggestions I think that Deputy General Counsel made, but really no major changes that they made. And so when the board approved it, I said, look, if there are additional changes after the fact, you can suggest them and then we'll bring it back if we have to. We didn't hear any changes and we haven't seen a signed agreement. So I will be communicating again with Deputy General Counsel to tell them that this transition is happening and that if they can expedite the execution of that agreement, that we would appreciate it. So that's kind of one issue that's out there. In conjunction with that is I'll be working on completing the the lease swap for Shaw and the CVO. They're working on the build outs now. I talked to John about that yesterday. So I told John that I would have those drafts done next week. So those will be done before we go for Christmas as well. The pilings at the beach, big issue. So I did have some dialogue with the county, and then I sent an email yesterday to the building official with everything that they need as far as to answer the question. So they needed certain information, they've got that. There's nothing more that we can do other than to let the building official make the call on it. Once he makes that call, there's gonna be 3 different options. He's either gonna say, you don't need it, you do need it, in which case the option is going to be whether we can apply for a Board of Adjustment variance. So those are the 3 things that are going to have to happen. I don't know what that answer is going to be, but it's the second that I get that answer, we will let you know. You know, I think we've made a good argument about not needing the pilings, but we'll see what they say. So, so as soon as we get something on that, we'll let you know. What else? As far as the there's a few liability claims out there that we're monitoring, watching. Nothing of any real significance. There's a couple of NRP transactions that have recently closed. They're pretty much done. There's really nothing outstanding. You've got the referendum on the, well, you've got the local bill related to the terms. So that's something that it's going to be introduced into the legislative session, so we know that it's going to go. That's just a matter of watching what.
When is that session, do you know?
January, I'm not sure the specific date on January, but
the new session begins
in January, and the bill has been filed, and so, you know, we have every indication to believe that it's going to go through. Certainly haven't heard of any opposition to it, so once that goes through, then obviously if it passes, when it passes, Mr. Carey will have to assist in drafting the referendum for November to make sure that that gets on the ballot. And then if that's approved by the voters, then obviously you're going to have charter change, and so that issue will be resolved. And you'll move forward on that. We know about the Blissful Things settlement. You all approved that. I don't know, have we received a payment on that yet? No. So we're kind of watching that to see if there's a payment on that. That's an outstanding issue. And as far as any specifics within, let me just look at real quick, specifics with regard to the DOR. The hot ones, the ones that we were holding on to, the one with the dogs is the big one. That's one of the ones that I'm going to hold on to, just so you know. So there was an order, we had a final order that was granted back in May, saying that they had to come into compliance within 30 days. They put their house up for sale. And they filed a motion for extension of time for 6 months to come into compliance. That date has come and gone, but we never really set it for hearing because of the fact that they had listed their house for sale. Now that we're kind of past that point, I think what we're going to do is set that down for a hearing as far as their compliance, to try to force them then in compliance. So that's one that I'm going to keep because of that issue. And then the one that you were concerned about at 750 Lark was the big problem one. That has, I talked to staff yesterday, that has substantially come into compliance. The trailer is no longer there. Most of the debris in the yard has been cleaned up. So there really isn't anything left. There's one toolbox that's underneath the carport. And staff sent me a picture of that yesterday. And so I've been in communication with the owner, the owner's wife, because the owner is not at the residence currently. And she was the one that was helping obtain compliance. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send her a picture of that toolbox. And I think she's been very responsive. And so if she moves, as long as she moves that toolbox, there might be like a couple of items right there under the carport, but they're small, then that case will be in compliance. That will cure that case. So I know that was one that everybody was really focused on. So that seems like that has been resolved. But other than that, we'll just transition the other ones that are outstanding, the regular run-of-the-mill ones, over to Mr. Carey, and you'll be advised of which ones those are. So, and that's pretty much it.
Very good.
And that's
You,
it.
now again, and I know Bruce is itchy, he's gonna go, Bruce has a tea time at 9:20. Again, are you coming back in January, or are you?
I'll come back in January. We'll send out the list. I'll work with John to
Okay.
transition.
Okay.
And then I'll come back in January for any questions that you
Okay.
might have
Very
about
good.
transition or any final matters under the
Great.
report section.
Okay.
Again, I won't bill you for that. I'll just
Oh,
come to the
yeah.
meeting. I quite honestly want to see the swearing in of Mr. Brinker. I've arranged for a judge to come, and
Okay.
we're in the process of that, so I definitely will come and witness those proceedings.
Very good.
So-
All right, thank you, sir.
All right.
Any other business before the board? Charles, anything? We're done. I need a motion to adjourn. Mr. Morrissey, second. Mr. Amos, second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, Cliff.